Hello everyone, today we are going to make these stacking coasters out of a tree branch. The wood I'm using is, I believe, beech, but I'm not entirely certain because someone gave me this log. So what we need is a log like this one. The straighter the better. In terms of width, this is about 8 centimeters by 6, so it's not the biggest. It wouldn't work for mugs, but it'll do. You also need some dowel rod. This is 9mm width. You could go down as low as 6. I wouldn't recommend going below 6 because then it starts to get flimsy. In terms of tools, you need a saw. I'm using a mitre saw, but you could use a hand saw if you wanted to. This is just for speed. I've got a little block here to make sure each cut is the same width, and that each one is going to be about a centimetre thick. Any thinner than that and they might get flimsy. So I'm just going to speed through here the cutting. When you're cutting them, try and stack them in the order you did cut them, because that makes things easier later on. And there we go, nice little stack. So if you want 4 coasters, you need to cut 5 pieces because 1 is for the base. So here we are. Next thing to do is start drilling the holes through for the center column. Firstly, I'm going to sand them down a bit, take off the sharp edges and just make them nice and smooth. Yeah, you just spend as much little time as you like on this. They actually came out pretty smooth to begin with, but a bit of an extra rub down. I think I'm using 120 grit here. You could go further if you wanted to, up to 220, 240, but it's up to you. So now I'm going to try and put them back in order, which is easier said than done. One of the problems is that as you cut them, the kerf of the saw blade, which is the thickness of the saw blade, means you won't be able to stack them up in perfect alignment. Because the kerf on my saw blade is 2.8mm, which is quite thick. So it means getting a nice slender stack with no obvious step down between each one is impossible. So you just have to try and work it out as best you can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick them all together using some duct tape, because that means when I come to drill them, they all stay together. These are oval-ish, so getting an exact center line is easier said than done. Sorry, an exact center spot. So I'm just going to draw crisscross lines to sort of work out roughly where the middle is. You could put them to one side. Sorry, you could drill it to one side if you wanted to. It doesn't really matter. Using a brad awl to punch a hole to help the drill bits get in. So I know where to put the drill bit. One problem you might have is the bark coming off, and that largely depends on the type of wood you're using and also how old it was. This was a fairly young branch, so the bark isn't really very thick. If that happens, it comes off, just use a bit of super glue or whatever other kind of glue you have to stick it back in. Once we apply resin or varnish at the end, that will help hold it on even better. So here we have the duct tape, which I'm going to stick it all together with. I'm not covering the top with duct tape because I want to see the hole I punched with the brad awl, so I'm just going to use a Stanley knife and cut off the excess. Don't push too hard or else you'll damage your coasters. Now, I'm going to drill down through all 5 cut pieces. The wood at the bottom is just to help push it up because the drill press doesn't go down far enough. In case you're wondering why there's no shavings being produced, it's because I forgot to film this the first time round, so I'm doing a pretend second run. I'm cutting off a piece for the dowel for the center column. The length, up to you. I like to have about a centimetre sticking out the top. It's whatever works for you. You could have it shorter or longer. And I'm going to sand the edges of the top so it's nice and rounded, so it makes it easier to get the coasters back on the stack. So I'm going to put a bit of wood glue in. Oh yes, I used a 10mm drill bit the whole way through. Even though the dowel's 9mm, with the glue added to it, it will swell and will fill and it will stick firm in the hole. There's a bit of duct tape underneath just so it doesn't glue to my and stick. Well, sorry, so it doesn't stick to the table. And reminds me of the days at school where we in woodwork class where we'd put wood glue under all the tools in the cabinet, and then they were stuck in there semi-permanently. Teacher didn't like that. So now we're coming on to the resining bit. I don't want to put resin on the center column because that would make it thicker and make it harder for the coasters to slide on and off. So I'm just going to cover that in some masking tape. I'm using spray lacquer resin because it'll darken the wood colour a bit, and it also makes it waterproof. You need them to be waterproof because if you're going to be spilling drinks on them, you don't want them absorbing liquid and getting destroyed. So this is the stuff. It's clear lacquer from Legal. Now, one of the problems you will have, because these are end grain pieces we are spraying, end grain loves to soak up pretty much anything liquid you put on it, be it varnish, lacquer, whatever, stain. So we aren't going to get a shiny, glassy finish on these. In fact, we're going to put several layers of spray on it, and it's just going to soak it up. But that's okay. Just as long as you know that, that's fine. In the end, it took something like 7 or 8 applications to get a decent shine on them. Like I said, it's not a glassy shine, but it's a nice enough shine. And they're definitely waterproof. Yeah. As I was spraying here, I could actually see the lacquer just get soaked into it. Now, if you put this on cross grain or the face of a piece of wood, you would have a glassy finish. It just wouldn't absorb as much. So here we are, they're all done. I like the fact that the way the lacquer has been absorbed has created this interesting semi-circular pattern. You can see the wider rings have absorbed more than narrower rings. Sorry, that's my rotocism coming through. So I actually quite like this. It's a good look. There is a bit of shine on there, which I might actually buff out. So I remove using steel wool. Now, just to show you how waterproof they are, I'm pouring some water on them, and it just runs off. That's how waterproof they are. So they look nice. You might want to give them a bit of buffing with some fine grit sandpaper or something like that if you want to, or you might keep on applying lacquer until you get that glassy sheen. So there we go. Nice cup of coffee. Yeah, people think I'm Irish or I should be drinking tea, but to be honest, I like black coffee. That's my drink. So yeah, there you go. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care. Bye bye.